What did your job want you to hide from customers? My old boss invented a fake employee that he would blame all mistakes on when speaking with customers. Once in a while, he would tell the customers he fired that imaginary employee and then come up with a new name for a new imaginary employee that would be the new sucker. This is genius. I work at a place that makes artisan French fries. For the last year or so, we've advertised plain old red potatoes as Laura potatoes, which are similar but 10,000x better. A red potato is red on the outside and white starchy like a rutted on the inside. A Laura potato is red on the outside and gold, buttery, smooth, all around awesome on the inside. It's implicit, but we're pretty much encouraged to just lie to people. We only got called out once when an actual potato farmer came to eat there, but other than that, we mostly get away with it. The injustice of it all. The cup of soup and bowl of soup were the exact same size. People would pay more for a bowl and just get a cup of soup and a bowl that was shorter and wider at the bottom than the cup. Yep, the same thing at the cafe I work at, except it's the adults and children's size milkshakes. At Green they told us to tell customers rain won't wash away the liquid fertilizer and weed control we spray, but it does. A simple Google search will tell you. They also tell customers we can kill crabgrass and other grassy weeds. What they don't tell you is that when grassy weeds die they don't wilt away, they turn purple, but they will still be there. Your company also harasses me constantly. I got one treatment 3 years ago. They called me last week at 7:30 PM to try to convince me to get another. I have asked to be removed from the calling list every time. I'm thinking that's never going to happen. I worked at McDonald's and they taught me how to pinch the fry carton just right while putting the fries into them so that it looked full, but actually wasn't. I only had one customer call me out on it. He shook the fries out into his bag and poured them back into the fry carton himself and it only filled up halfway, so I had to give him more fries. I was impressed and embarrassed. It's been 7 years and I can still see his face. When I still worked there, Staples charged $160 for basically running Malwarebyte and CCleaner and called it virus removal, and I think most people know $160 was balls for that, but it was always the old people that got screwed with that BS. Former Office Depot employee here, I did literally the same thing. Former Geek Squad here, we weren't allowed to perform computer hardware installs in front of customers. Managers didn't want them to see just how dang easy it really is. Worked at a bike rent shop where we told customers we sanitized the helmets we rented via heat treatment. Heat treatment consisted of having some sorry-ass high schooler run up to the top of the building, essentially the attic of this old wooden structure, and just leave them in boxes, or, if they were wet, hung from nails to drip and dry. I gag just thinking about that. Imagine the smell. I've worked for 2 separate escape rooms. Everyone who didn't get out got really close. Usually we'll show you what you missed if there's only a few puzzles left. If we don't show you anything it's because we didn't want to make you feel bad. I work in a center with a room that has 2 secret rooms you need to get into, and the escape door is in the last secret room. Many times particularly bad groups haven't got out of the first room and I've had to awkwardly escort them out the way they came in as if the other 2 rooms didn't exist. I used to work in a jewelry shop that sold cheap Chinese crap silver gold painted plastic jewelry, none of it being real metal, but every sale I had to upsell one of these $5 polishing cloths. You can't polish a turd, the only thing this cloth did was rub the cheap paint off the plastic faster. I felt like such a con artist. You can't polish a turd, but you can roll it in glitter and make it sparkle. A burrito chain that I worked at was on Undercover Boss. In the episode, the chain wouldn't let ABC show the fact that our guacamole comes from avocado paste, not fresh avocados. Worked at a restaurant that also did catering. People would come in for tastings regularly for things like weddings and we'd give them samples of some of our food. The big thing at these tastings was the cheesecake, which was made in-house to be served in the restaurant and was pretty great. What we didn't tell them was that for catering events, we bought pre-made cheesecakes instead. I think they were Marie calendars. Basically we'd sell them on our cheesecake then give them something less good that was easier cheaper for us. Honestly, we were stretching ourselves a little thin with catering. It was always a mess trying to get all the food prepared as well as run the restaurant. We had one chef who worked every single day and the waiters doubled as caterers, sometimes working long wait and catering shifts back to back. I worked at a hotel that did this too. I was wedding planner and always had to deal with the wedding party complaining the day after that the food was different to what they had tasted. Management did not give a frick. Was not fun times. My erection. I work at a shoe store, and we recently got a shipment of clearance sandals aka years old sandals they had shoved in some warehouse. As I was putting them out I noticed some had green stuff all over them. Mold. We were instructed by corporate to wipe it off and sell them anyway. Luckily my manager is sane and refuses to put out the moldy shoes, but still some sketchy crap. If something you eat says no added X, this means whatever ingredient X is, it has been added instead by adding an ingredient naturally high in that in lieu of adding it in its pure form. For example, if you've got something that says no added MSG, they likely threw a bunch of yeast extract in there instead, which contains plenty of MSG. One I've seen is made with fat-free milk. Ingredients were fat-free milk and milk fat. I machine embroider shirts for different companies. If the stitching doesn't line up, such as an outline around a logo, and the colors allow for it, we have a bucket full of markers to recolor the thread, even going as far as coloring the shirt that shows through to make it look cohesive. The best ones are Sharpie or dry erase markers. I like this. As a hairdresser I dye my clothes back to black with Sharpies all the time after light henna gets on them. Worked at a nursery. Plants, not babies. That sold Christmas trees in winter. We had to have 2 employees per customer in the lot at all times. One to talk to and distract the customer, the other to hold up the particular tree they were interested in and shake the rats out while said customer was distracted. Basically these people were buying $50 rat nests to put in their house. This is the most disturbing of anything in the thread. I worked in the vegetable seed industry. Some varieties that were exclusive to certain customers were just repackaged and renamed seed of an existing variety. If something was underselling, they just changed the name, rewrote the description and claimed it was a better, sister line. It was always funny though when customers demanded the old line because the new one wasn't as good. We'd just shrug, change the label back to the old name and off it went. Worked for a shady computer repair company that took in electronic recycling. He would charge $1 an inch to dispose of old CRT monitors and then toss them into the dumpster. This was just one of the many shady things he did. That's straight up a crime in California. Big hefty fine for illegal dumping of electronics. I worked at an art glass store that sold glass, mostly made in China with very few actual nice pieces. We were told to peel the made in China stickers off. If anyone asked where the glass came from we would say New Jersey, which is where the supplier was from. I always felt like Danny DeVito and Matilda changing the odometer on his used cars. I worked for a furniture store and they would have us take a Sharpie to black out the made in foreign country stamps on the bottoms of chairs and bar stools. If any wooden furniture had scratches or any other minor damage, we would match the color with putty and fill it in. For scratches in dark wood we would just take a Sharpie and trace over it. I used to work at a really fancy restaurant as both a waitress and hostess. This restaurant was notorious for having long wait times, but really amazing food. We always encouraged people to make reservations, never directly saying it guaranteed them a spot in our restaurant. That said, if a preferred customer comes in, or someone makes enough of a fuss to the manager, they'll be able to cut the line and go ahead of reservations. Restaurant. That we would reheat sauces for several days and depending on how many times this had happened they would look and taste completely different. I told my friends and family to not eat there as there was plenty of sketchy crap going on there. Marking crap up so we can put it on sale. I just finished my old job as a cashier and for 3 years I witnessed new products come in with a tag saying was 14.99, now 7.49. Bulls. We literally just started selling it. It's a selling tactic. Sometimes customers would joke and say the product can't be too good if it's marked down so much, and I would then tell them the truth. I worked at an oil change place and the pit crew would regularly forget to tell us that we were out of synthetic oil. We would upcharge people for a product they didn't even get. Also, you didn't need a new air filter. We just needed a $72 average per car, but a base oil change was only $20. I'm a home inspector and the realtors that refer me work don't want me to point as many things out that are wrong with the house. I always do my job but many agents don't use me as a result. In fast food, drive-through comes first because they're the majority of customers. If you come in you'll get your food between us serving drive-through. The cheesecakes are not frozen. They are deeply chilled, which from what I have gathered is an industry term roughly equating to frozen AF, plus a bunch of other stuff. I worked at a high-end resort, like $2,000 person a night at a time. They billed themselves as eco, but did things that definitely weren't. Probably the most enjoyable were the slop dumping runs, where we would go and dump kitchen scraps in the ocean. The idea was to not have bears get into it, so we'd freeze it in 5-gallon buckets and go dump it in the ocean. We used the same spot and had a crab trap set up there because this stuff attracted crabs like crazy. We were instructed to not dump slop on guest arrival days though, since there was a bit of a slick formed. Who knew rich people food was so fatty? Anyway, one day we forgot and dumped a load on an arrival's day. When one of the guests commented on the slick, I blamed the fish farms nearby. They have since changed their ways and run a pretty good show now, but back in the day, we were eco in front, redneck in the back. Pretty much exactly how I caught crabs as a kid. Drop a crab trap with the fish fry scraps in it in the channel behind the house. Come back after midnight and have a pot full of crab. Chicken bone on a string will bring up a few too, but have a net ready. I work at a movie theater. People are always trying to sneak food in. In our employee handbooks it actually says people can bring food in as long as it doesn't smell bad. It's funny to see customers nervously hide their bags so we don't see it. Close bracket. We don't wash the blankets every day. Your AC probably has mildew mold in it unless you have a full-size AC in it. Also, we don't vacuum your floor very well, and not everything at break is fresh cooked. I've stayed at so many motels nobody had to tell me this. Daily Deal Company. The fact that the third-party Android tablets we were selling on our site for Christmas weren't even in production yet. We were basically just taking their money for that product. There were parents who were super excited to find a great deal for their kid during the holiday rush and I felt like crap having to sell it to them. I was working customer service and they were usually calling to see how legit the product was. I left soon afterwards. Is it hard to see why? So I wasn't able to see the full consequence of that deal. Besides hiding how much we're marking up equipment, those of us in the field have to actively hide all of the frick-ups that happen back in the office. Oh, it's on back order. It will be in next week means the butthole Bob forgot to order it. Or, we are actually on credit hold with that company because our customers don't pay us fast enough. Yeah, there was a lot of traffic today means that butthole Steve gave us the wrong address and failed to mention the lack of a loading dock. My brother and I worked for a junkie who happened to be surprisingly functional. He owned a number of auction houses. My brother and I would do everything for his business. Maintenance, janitorial, carpentry, plumbing, loading unloading trucks, displaying merchandise during call-outs. Think Vanna White. We would even drive his wife around when he was too high. I have a million stories from this place, but one instance stands out that applies directly to ARP's title. So one of his auction houses primarily sold furniture, everything from office chairs to sex swings, but mostly couches. So we got a living room set in one day, lover seat, couch, rocking chair, and it was mismatched. Just the colors were different, but unfortunately that meant it was going to be extremely hard to sell the individual pieces. So the owner, Rob, Cause Frickett, that's his name, Rob decided he wasn't going to lose a sale and in a H-inspired haze ordered me and my brother to spray paint the entire set gray. Not any fancy spray paint, just regular old Rust-Oleum gray. So we did it. My brother and I spent like 3 hours putting layer after layer of paint on a living room set. Have you ever tried to spray paint fabric? It doesn't really work, especially after it dries. So the day of the sale happens and me and my brother are sweating bullets over this disgusting looking set. Like the paint is all sloughing off in huge chips. There's grey dust all around this thing. Then someone buys the fricking thing as part of a lot. Fine, right? Number. Not fine. We have to load these fricking things. Towards the end of the night, Rob pulls us to the side and explains he has made sure the buyer of the silver set would have his trailer at the dock first and that we were to load the silver set first. Obviously Rob wanted this crap hidden deep in the bowels of the customer's trailer. See, many of our customers were from out of state, so there was almost no chance this would come back to bite Rob as long as we could get it on the trailer without anyone knowing. So we did it. No idea what happened once the customer found out, but his entire trailer bed was covered in silver flakes, as were my brother and I. How many spiders are in hotels? I worked front desk but would help out maintenance if needed. One day we pulled and cleaned all the AC units and my job was to take a shop vac and suck up spiders in the AC hole in the wall. I'm talking thousands and thousands. Shudders. Worry back at my very first job, I worked at a hardware store. They had this really nice engraved hatchet with a leather sheath. The store manager told me they never sold a single one. Local chain in a small town. Most people weren't looking for anything fancy. Although he did have several stolen, the inventory was on automatic order for any item sold or marked down. So when he put it in the system as stolen, they would always send him a new one to be pocketed again. He took to hiding the item in the back storeroom. That's right, my job actually was hiding product from customers and back. Half of the food I prep for orders consists of repackaging pre-prepared food into our own package and slapping a higher price in it. One job wanted me to hide the fact that we were upselling grilled cheese. We Google everything. Crap, we don't need to hide it. I've literally done it in front of customers. They often don't know frick all what's going on. There is value in knowing the right terms and search patterns to use. My uncle used to work at a restaurant many decades ago as a teenager. It was his job each morning to strain the cockroaches out of the pancake syrup containers on each table. That's extremely disgusting. I worked in car rental in Ireland. We weren't supposed to sell the extra insurance to Spanish or Italian customers because they are not known for being great drivers and often damage the cars. It's much more profitable to only sell insurance to people who won't use it. Law firm. Hi, thanks for holding. The attorney is actually in a meeting with another client right now. Can I take a message for you and they can call back when they're free? Hangs up, phone goes back to talking to attorney who didn't want to talk to phone person. This is pretty standard where I work. I never tell people that my boss is in her office till after she tells me she is. Note, her desk is next to mine. We don't have quality control to make sure people's Medicaid doesn't get screwed up by our grossly incompetent employees who are too dense to comprehend eligibility rules. I worked at a popular chain sandwich restaurant in the Chesapeake Bay region. Many customers would order the crab sandwich, which was on our local menu as seafood sensation. The mixture was just thawed imperial crab, which is just fish, and mayonnaise. We were told not to tell customers that it lacked any actual crab. It was also foul smelling and plain disgusting. At U-Haul, we weren't allowed to tell customers that trucks charge their fee by the 24 hours, which means that a customer renting a truck for 3 hours is paying just as much as another customer who is renting it for the whole day. If a U-Haul employee asks if 6 hours is enough, don't feel bad if you want to extend your time just in case. You have been spotted by the money pigeon. Comment gimme gimme and he will bless you with good fortune. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.